They were saying that they wanted more, like, why don't people make review videos of our videos and give us some fraternal correction? So you know what? I decided that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to go into some of their stuff. I did a little deep dive and pulled out some things because I don't really care if they're super into the Latin Mass. Go for it. I used to go to that. I actually do prefer Novus Ordo by quite a bit. There was one of my other reactions was to an atheist who goes to different churches, and he went to the Latin Mass, and he seemed to not like it as much either as a normal Catholic service. So, what are you going to do? Not everybody goes along with the traditionalist uh, spin on that, but yeah. So I don't really have a problem with them liking it, though. Go for it. And I don't have a problem with some of their other views. But one that I'm increasingly kind of disgusted by online is just how deep. I don't know when they're going to hit the bottom on this. Like if they're all going to be like Zig Heil and getting Nazi tattoos on their forehead like Charlie Manson or something. But they're just going lower and lower on this like we hate the Jews stuff. Like Anthony, the guy on the left, he was saying that the Jews worship Satan, their father. They interpret this verse, where Jesus says you worship your father, the devil, or something like that. He interprets that to mean modern Jews worship the devil. Okay. I actually saw a KKK guy once say that. That's the only other time I've heard somebody say that. But regardless, I wanted to review some of the stuff that I can just pull from the last couple days, basically, of what these guys have been saying, because I do think it deserves fraternal correction at the very least, if not something harsher than that. When you go this deep into hatred and stupidity of this kind, especially when it goes directly against what the church teaches on the subject. So, with that in mind, I pulled out a clip I found. I don't even know how I found this. I think I might have just gone back a couple in their YouTube shorts and saw this thing. And I don't know if I watched all of it, but enough to where I'm like, okay, this would be good for a reaction to these guys and their views on the Jews. So, all right, let's cue it up. Go ahead, Anthony and Rob. By the way, Anthony, the guy on the left, he's going to talk 99.8% of the time. And the other guy, I don't know. He occasionally chimes in. He's kind of grumpy and serious, and Anthony's a little more. He's like the life of the party of the show that people talk about what he says more. But maybe they'll both probably have a bit to say on this.
Listen, if you get into listening to the Father Mawdsley conversation with Catherine today, it is about the liturgy, and
just to stop it real quick, even though it just started. Father Mawdsley and Catherine, he doesn't really say in this video who those people are. Catherine has some mainstream Catholic show. I don't know mainstream, but kind of borderline trad to mainstream. And then Father Mawdsley is this guy. I don't even call him father necessarily, but he had belonged to one of these Latin only Catholic sects that are like, that one's a little more directly in the church, but it was a spinoff of SSPX, which is not connected to the Catholic Church, and any they'll dispute you on that. So, so sorry, SSPX. But we can get into that maybe another time. But he was asked to leave. I don't know. He basically kicked out of that FSSP, very traditionalist Catholic movement, because they're having to really police their borders, because a lot of the reason they're not able to join the mainstream church is because of their anti-Semitism. And that was made very clear to Bishop Williamson, who he got in trouble in Europe, like legally, because he said only 300,000, as if that would make it better. Like I only killed 300,000 people. But that's what he thought the Holocaust was. Only 300,000 Jews died. He has all kinds of, we can get in Bishop Williamson as well later. But Father Mawdsley, that guy is a character. So here, I'm going to pull this across. So he is a sort of once was a priest kind of guy, and he just got kicked off of YouTube because his videos were crazy. So here's his Rumble. He just directed everybody on Twitter. Go ahead and check my Rumble out because they allow whatever. So, which I'm not for. I'm not saying I'm for shutting people down or cancel culture, but here's what he's been up to. So these are his deep dives. Not much on Jesus and his message of love God and love your neighbor, which sum up the whole new covenant. Not much on that. Here's what he's been looking at lately. Good Friday and the final conversion of the Jews. Could be not bad. Consequences of the Holocaust narrative. That's something you'll hear a lot with these guys. The myth of the Holocaust narrative and how they reformed the whole world according to this phony narrative that the Jews were killed. Okay. He has two-parter on that. Interesting. Germany did not start World War II. Picture Hitler, blah, blah, blah. Whence these 6 million Jews? Gas chambers? Baby killing sadists? Of course, the Nazis aren't that. How could you slander my buddies, the Nazis? Next, Zionists, Freemason, Kabbalists, blah, blah, blah. What was the real final solution? Great leadership. Picture of Hitler there. I guess he was a great leader. But he made a fatal mistake, it says underneath it. He almost was one of the good ones, right? Auschwitz and Birkenau, no gas chambers. But literally, I go through all those, but literally every single thing is like Hitler good, gas chambers didn't exist, Jews evil. Like that's his whole shtick, right? And I tried to just give them the benefit of the doubt and say, let's just look online, look anywhere I can. What is the best case you can make for all of this? There really isn't one. That the Holocaust was made up in order to like take over the world. Like even just ask these people. They don't have, it's all conspiracy BS. Okay, so there's that. If you wonder who Father Mawdsley is, that's who Father Mawdsley is. I'll get this off the screen there and let's Anthony, let him continue. He's got things to say about Father Mawdsley.
It's about how that narrative is used against the church.
That narrative, meaning the Holocaust narrative that Father Mawdsley, the guy's talking about, has a bunch of videos, the Holocaust narrative. It's used against the church, right? That's what he's claiming. Let's see what he says about it.
And the church is told the reason this event happened is because of your liturgies. It's because of your Good Friday liturgy and St. John's Passion.
Okay, there was some medieval anti-Semitism. Are you denying that there were people who mistook the crucify and let the, curse of be on all of our children? There were people who took that in a way that basically like we hate all the Jews, and Nostra Aetate, the current teaching on the Jews, says you are not allowed to blame all modern Jews on this on modern Jews. It says that very explicitly. So I don't know if he would agree with Nostra Aetate. I kind of doubt it. Kind of very much doubt it. But yeah, go ahead.
You need to change it. And they pressured them. And then the Second Vatican Council comes and you get Nostra Aetate and you get Dignitatis Humanae and you get all these changes, and it's from these outside pressure groups from this myth narrative thing.
So the myth of the Holocaust forced Vatican II to change our liturgy. What I'll hear them bitch about sometimes is they took the word perfidus out. It was in Latin. It meant, sneaky Jew or whatever. And they took that out of maybe the Good Friday prayers. And Father Mawdsley says now they used to not kneel. They used to kneel for every other group. But a lot of the local tradition said don't kneel for the Jews when you're praying for the different people groups. Don't kneel for them. That's also not what the magisterium teaches. But these are the kind of changes that they're like, guys, I mean, they made us not call the Jews sneaky. I mean, and perfidus, and it's like, okay, you think the whole Holocaust narrative, they made this whole thing up so they could change one word in the liturgy, or what?
It's what happens to the church. Like this is the importance of this story. It's not like all of what I'm seeing is not about a dislike of a people. It's not about a hatred of none of it. It's all theological to me. Like all of this is theological to me. I'm looking at this from a theological perspective, and I'm saying, wow, what is happening here? Like this is
What is
this
happening?
is wild.
What
They're
is?
they're putting pressure on the church, and the church acquiesces to this. And it seems like what's happening right now is not traditional versus Novus
What
Ordo.
is that?
It doesn't seem like traditional versus Novus Ordo. Like what I'm seeing seems like Catholic Zionism versus those who are seeing it's look.
Those who are seeing, they have this whole like noticer or whatever thing. You ask them like, what the hell are you noticing? Okay, they took the word perfidious out of some Good Friday prayer. Okay, what else are you noticing? What is going on? Like Israel gets 0.05% of the U.S. budget every year. It's probably one of the bigger foreign aid that goes to any country. Okay, you think if they're controlling the world, they might ask for, I don't know, 2 or 3% rather than 0.05 or whatever they get. Yeah, but he's saying, so on one side you got the Christian Zionists and Catholic Zionists or whatever, and on the other you got these people that are noticing these things. Again, what the hell are we noticing here? They never tell you. They never really tell you. This is what I've noticed about the Groypers. Like these guys probably wouldn't say we're Groypers, but it's the same thing. It's like kind of Catholics that reject Vatican II and hate the Jews and talk a lot about the Latin Mass and how the bishops are not legitimate and this, that, or the other way. But in terms of Catholic Zionists, like you could see that just like any other country, like, okay, they have some more cultural connections to us. There's a lot of American Jews. Jewish people are pretty modern and sophisticated, first world country. So we have some cultural similarities. Our religion is kind of traced back to them. Sorry, guys. So we have a lot of common, references and things of like that and morality and religion. And so that aside, though, you don't even have to take that into the picture. Just say there was a country created in the mid 20th century. There were many, many countries that have been formed since then. Those countries, if they have recognized borders, Israel does. The UN set them up in like 1947 or whatever. They're a country. Hamas can't break in there and rape and murder people. Iran can't arm everybody around them and develop nukes. And of course, Israel's going to try to defend themselves. I mean, I guess they'll probably bring up, the 1947, the Nakba, people call it the Great Catastrophe of the Arabs. All right, what were the Arabs doing right before that? The 1940s, that other big thing that happened that you guys don't really think happened, but whatever. The World War II. Grand Mufti Amin Husseini was kind of the leader of the Palestinians, at least one of the major leaders, and a ton of the Palestinians sided with Hitler, and they were trying to make sure Jews were not escaping Europe to the Middle East. And so after the war was over, Hitler's defeated. Grand Mufti Husseini and his Palestinians, they're defeated. A lot of the Palestinians were fine with the state of Israel in terms of like 20% of the state of Israel today is Arab. Those people were not going around massacring people. They're allowed to stay. The ones who are continually like, we can't accept you, and they keep trying to fight them. Yeah, there's an ongoing war, but you could look at so many other wars around the world. You don't have to make it all like do Christians, I mean, there are some Christians that put like a big spiritual bent about it. I don't think that's totally wrong. I mean, there's a lot in the Bible about how Jews are our older brothers and how they're going to play a big part in salvation history. We're grafted onto their branch, and some of them are cut off and they might come back onto the branch, like Romans 11 talks about that. So they're not an insignificant people group spiritually. So there is context there but I don't even think you have to bring in that context to just say they have the right to defend themselves. We don't need to bring that in. We can say they're an ally, like a lot of places are allies. So, yeah, I don't see like he's saying that there's these two groups and it's all about the Jews. It's like, it's only all about the Jews to y'all. You talk to an average Catholic at Mass, the normie Novus Ordo Mass where 99.5% of people go, to talk about like, oh, you guys sensing this tension where the Catholic Church is so split over Israel? They'd be like, what? No, we're just listening to the sermon, and we're gonna go to the Knights of Columbus breakfast in the basement, and then we're taking our kids to the park. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. So it's not really on anybody's mind except for the SSPX, the people like that who. That's the only reason they're not in communion with the church, is because they haven't been able to give up their Holocaust denying stuff for long enough to make amends. But
this is important. Like this is a very difficult topic to discuss, because
yeah, I'm sure
there's one group of people that are seeing something happening in the culture.
Again, what are they seeing? This one group of people that's seeing all this stuff. What are you seeing, man? Jews aren't controlling my life. Are they controlling your life? Or, I mean, you live in, sounds like New York City or somewhere. There's a lot of Jews there, but what are they doing to you? Like, that's so bad.
When you see the Groypers and the Fuenteses and all that stuff, there is a danger in what those guys are doing. Like in the past, things like that have aroused pogroms. You start talking about these things and it riles people up, and then the next thing you know, there's a pogrom. And
so you're not saying those things are wrong. You're just saying, guys, I mean, Fuentes and all the guys that you usually seem to associate with, he's almost sounding a little moderate there. Man, I don't know if, his buddies are going to appreciate this. He's like, there is actually a danger to whipping up stuff against the Jews. So I'm a little surprised to hear this from you, buddy.
people get hurt.
People get hurt.
So I understand
kind of a threat, isn't it?
Them going, oh man, look at the signs are here. The warnings are all here. We need to do something about this and stop it in its tracks.
It's why the church, when it has in the past promulgated documents on this group of people, it's
this group that shall not be
on one hand been to condemn their actions and ideas, but on the other hand has always been to also protect them. I mean, the
condemn their actions and ideas. So these people are noticing stuff. Again, we got to condemn them, but also protect them from maybe what will be coming their way if they're not careful.
Papal states were a
sanctuary.
The papal states,
sanctuary city, where they were allowed to exist. They couldn't have any positions of power. They couldn't influence the culture. You were not allowed to have usury, things like that. But they were protected. They were safe.
This reminds me a lot of dhimmitude. Like dhimmis are in Islam, are these people of the book, either Jewish or Christian, but they're allowed to exist. He's saying they're allowed to exist. We're not going to kill you. But he said they're not allowed to influence the culture, hold any positions of power, and they got to pay us for protection money. Sounds like a mafia racket, kind of like, hey, if you don't pay your money, we don't know what's going to happen. However, you're allowed to be here. You're allowed to have your business on the corner. Just don't talk too much about what you see here. You can't really affect the culture. We don't like that. So I don't really know, what they're saying per se about the modern times. He's saying, there's this danger of the Holocaust because everybody notices the stuff the Jews are doing. But on the other hand, we can, we can't just let the Jews do what they're doing and try to rule the world, correct? So the middle point is some kind of like Islamic dhimmi system where they can't really do anything in our society, but they're safe. The Holocaust won't happen again. If it ever did happen, come on. But if it did, that's the kind of thing that could happen.
Yeah.
Sometimes that involved them paying a tribute to the Pope. There might have been some corruption involved there.
I mean, you gotta pay for that protection, right?
Just saying, but that is the point, right? So I do understand where the guys like Trent are coming from in one aspect. They're seeing a lot of the noticing going on, and they're like, whoa, we got to be careful here. We don't want to see the things that have happened in the past happen again. But on the other hand,
maybe we do.
Are you actually unaware of the dangers of?
Are you okay? So we don't want the Holocaust, but are you guys unaware of all the stuff that the Jews are doing? Like what, dude? Like what? I mean, I've asked Groyper types like this a million times. Like, just tell me something. They're like, if you know, pornography sites run by Jews. It's like, I don't know, pretty much every Catholic men's group, when I was Protestant, like 20 years ago, Protestant men's group, it's always like everybody's struggling with their porn habits, and it's a difficult thing, and it's a male instinct. And it was pretty straightforward that when cameras were invented, that people would start filming women naked, sexual things. Like, that's not an invention of the Jews. That's pretty like human nature. That's one thing you'll see with this, I think, is they take something that's a human evil, and it's kind of nice to be able to just unload all that on this one group, the Jews. Oh man, all the progressive stuff and Marxist stuff. Well, Karl Marx was a Jew, right? Even though he kind of hated Jews and he wasn't religious at all. Yeah, but he was a Jew. So basically we can just say all the Marxism, all the leftism, progressive stuff, Jewish. And they do that with all this stuff. Like I said, with pornography, it's like, well, that's like literally the only thing they tell you. But I think that's even where, like back to pornography, the term pornography, even way before there were cameras, is pornography. The pornos was the prostitutes. It was pictures of prostitutes, people literally drawing prostitutes. So it's been around for kind of a while. It's not really a Jewish only thing. Yeah, what else are you going to bring up? I don't know. Like, Hollywood has liberal messages. It's like, do you know how many mainline Protestant liberal types there are out there? Way more than Jewish people. Jewish people are a small part of society. And I meet a lot of conservative Jews. I meet Jews from all over the spectrum. But this thing, like, noticing, I mean, are you guys really not noticing? Yeah, I mean, unless you tell us something like big plot was just uncovered and the Jews are ruling the world. But that brings me to another Mawdsley thing. So we're talking about Nick Fuentes. Who is that guy? So he's kind of the Groypers that I was talking about. They're led by this dude, Nick Fuentes. He's an open, like, I hate the Jews. The Holocaust didn't happen. He makes fun, has like memes about how 6 million Jews didn't happen. His whole thing is just like, I hate the Jews. So, but he's apparently Catholic in his mind. I mean, he doesn't seem to have much of the spirit of love in him from the Holy Spirit. You know them by their fruits. And this guy, all right, I'll bring him over here just to see as another example of these guys all what their views are on all this. So, I mean, look at that guy. Looks like a cartoon villain, just like, but his little clips like this during the Israel-Iran war have made it on Iranian TV. So he's definitely leaning into the, like, let's wipe the Jews out thing. And guess who's commenting here up there? I don't know if you can see it, but Father Mawdsley, and he's saying, the Jews will continue to enslave the world. Guys, did you know that the Jews are enslaving the world? Like, this is the Father Mawdsley guy who he's saying the woman was courageous to have on. They had him on as well. I mean, he's like a crazy neo-Nazi guy. And he's quoting another crazy neo-Nazi guy saying the Jews control the world. Just give us something, man. I mean, I'm not going to buy it, and I think you're evil and full of whatever, but obviously you should probably back this up with something other than the Holocaust. They faked the Holocaust in order to take the word perfidus out of the liturgy or something, or just give us something. But he says, dear Catholic bishops, please listen to this Catholic layman, Nick Fuentes, who can deny that he's articulating truth. Hey, me. If you, your excellencies, will preach as the church used to preach, then wars in hell can be averted. Blah, 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 blah. All right. And then you see at the bottom, who's that? Chiming in, Anthony, Catholicism. He's like, you know what, Fuentes, you know what, Mawdsley, the Jews do rule the world. And he says, Bishop Williamson was the only bishop in our era that was willing to speak truthfully on this issue. Now, I think I mentioned Bishop Williamson early on. He was the guy who, when the church was trying to kind of bring the SSPX Latin Mass people back in, they quickly were like, actually, never mind, because he immediately started going around in Europe and talking about how the Holocaust is made up. It's a this narrative that's not real. So let me see. I got a thing I can bring up here. The propaganda in favor of the Holocaust took off only after Vatican II. Before the council, people still had a little too much common sense to believe that about twice as many Jews were exterminated in Europe as they had been before the World War. So that's, I tried to look up like where could he possibly have gotten that. It's not really, ChatGPT was kind of confused. I Googled around. It was like, there was something that said 3 million Jews, according to this one census, existed, but it like didn't include a ton of countries, and all the other censuses said either 11 million is what the Nazis themselves said, we are targeting all 11 million Jews. Another census said 9.5 million Jews. Probably depends on where you consider Europe to be. It depends on a lot of things. But 3 million was like an incomplete look at a fewer countries or something. I don't know. I'm not a Holocaust expert, but all I know is his opinions on this, Bishop Williamson, are not courageous. He's not the only one that's been speaking truth on the Holocaust. I think what he is saying is dangerous and disgusting. And they're drawing people away. And, you know, if I was going to say, like, why I'm not a trad, I'll probably have a video on that. A lot of it is, I used to think of myself that way. And I had a couple reasons, but one of them that I no longer think that way is just how much ignorance and stupidity and just clearly no fruit of the Spirit in some of these people, where they just spend their day. They're not talking about, okay, you know, how can we help people? Can we spend our time? You know, when Jesus says, you know, he'd come to me and he said, well, did you give people water to drink? Did you visit people in prison? Did you give people food and sustenance? They're not talking about any of that. What they're talking about is the Jews and just hating people in general. They troll everybody. So it's not just Jews. They also troll, you know, Protestants. They troll Eastern Orthodox and atheists and whoever. But the point is, they'll phrase things. It's not telling people the truth in love and being all things to all people, meaning like saying something to the Protestants about the faith in a language they'll understand. You purposely phrase things in a way that they're going to reject just so you control them and say, hey, you're going to hell, or, you know, no, you know, Protestants are wrong on everything, when that's not even what our church teaches. They're separated brothers who are participating in Christ in an incomplete and in a way that's not connected fully to the Catholic Church, but has a relationship to the church. So yeah, I think these guys, you know, are really drawing people astray, and there's going to be a huge backlash against this. There's going to be a big backlash against it, because I don't think I'm the only one who kind of went deep down and spiraled into this like purist mindset, and then was like, you know what? Yeah, that's not what that's not fulfilling, and it's also just, it's clearly not of God, all the things that they stand for and talk about. Just to give you one more video here, they're asking Anthony about, oh, well, do you actually think the death camps happened? And he says, honestly, I have no idea. I'm not saying as a cop-out, I just don't know. People say there are gas chambers. The reason I want to hear Father Mawdsley, you remember the dude with all the like, Hitler good leader, death camps never happened. Just everything is just basically Nazi propaganda. The reason I want to listen to that guy is because I'd like to form an opinion of my own, not just accept the one they tell me I have to hold. The more people tell me I'm not allowed to question this event, the more I want to question it. If it happened the way they saw, there should be no issue. Now, let's be real. That's some pretty stupid logic, like reasoning wise. If there were some girls in your town who everybody's like, yeah, they were raped in this really terrible way, and the parents said that they, you know, they were, and the you know, medical examiner said they had all this evidence, and the girls were traumatized, and just everything was looking one way, and you're like, okay, that's fine, but I mean, I'm not really sure, because every time I say the girls really get raped? Or I don't really know that they did. And every time I question it, these people get mad at me. So what that tells me is they probably didn't. Like, no, that's not what that tells me. It tells me that people are mad at you for being an a-hole about something that caused a lot of pain, like an insane amount of pain. Even if Bishop Williamson, your buddy, was right that only 300,000 Jews were killed in those camps, and who knows what happened to the rest of them. That's 300,000 people. If I took one child and strangled the life out of them, or like the Nazis did, put them in a ditch and just shot them, we've uncovered so many graves that way. If you do that to one child, you'd be a monster. 300,000, even if your ridiculous, ahistorical numbers are right, you still can't say great leader, but made a little mistake and all that stuff. No, they're massively evil. And honestly, even if you just think 300,000 people, there's a giant war across the continent, and they scooped up, there weren't that many Jews, but they scooped them up and sent them to camps and killed 300,000. Like, that's still something that we should feel pretty bad about, no? Maybe not on an individual level, but as Western civilization, we should be like, that was a bad thing. We shouldn't do that again. And the Catholics, I don't think we should feel responsible. I think it's Western civilization, but I'm not a Nazi. I wish I could say the same thing for you, but I'm personally not a Nazi. So why would I feel my ideology, is to blame? Because the Catholic Church was Church of Spies. Read that book. That's really good. It shows that the Pope, he was working with all these people in the underground. First of all, the Catholic areas of Germany were completely anti-Nazi. So this like Holocaust denial stuff is really weird. It's like, we were not on that side. We were on the good side. So why take something that should be a point of pride for us, that we were against the Nazis. A lot of priests actually were sent to the death camps. A point of pride that we stood up against them. We were kind of like the only people that stood up. Protestants will bring up Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who is great, but they don't bring up in this book. It talks about how actually the Catholics sought him out and they trained him in their ethics at a Catholic monastery, because they wanted to have it not just be seen as a Catholic resistance to Hitler. So, I don't think you have to feel particularly like this is either you accept the Holocaust and that means Catholicism's wrong, or, the other option is that we just have to kind of pretend like it didn't happen, or you accept some really dumb conspiracies about things. No, we can say, yeah, that was terrible. And the Catholic Church was one of the only ones that really kind of tried to do something about it. All right, let's keep going.
The thing that's actually it's like, do we call out our own and protect and make sure our own don't get out of control? Or by doing that, are we turning a blind eye to the actual thing that's going to happen? That's my worry right now. And
so again, he's like, I don't want to risk another Holocaust, but does that mean we have to ignore this other thing about the thing that's happening with the thing and the Jews ruling the world? It's like, just lay this out for me a little bit better before we risk another Holocaust, like you're saying. What's the other side again? You're noticing what? There's a lot of wealthy Jews in the world. Okay, there's a lot of wealthy people from India. There's a lot of wealthy Koreans. The kind of woke left people were always talking about how there's too many rich white people, and that's got to be a conspiracy. Are you just literally doing their thing, but for us? That's dumb reasoning. That's the whole woke right thing. Of course, they think that's stupid, but seems to line up pretty closely. So what is this thing? I'm sure they're going to lay it out soon, any second now, how the Jews rule the world.
I don't look. It's just an intuition I have.
It's just an intuition.
Whatever. I don't know. I just kind of see this thing happening.
It's a thing,
and it's all people I always liked, and it's all people I grew up learning the Catholic faith from. And
Oh, it's so sad. All the people he used to like and learn the Catholic faith from, they don't like him anymore just because he spends all day talking about how the Jews rule the world and they probably need to put in this sort of dimitude state where they're not allowed to talk but they have to pay us money. And now none of the like mainstream Catholics like him anymore. Poor
I'm
guy.
seeing this split happening, and it's like this one group over here, and they all seem to be saying the same thing. And then I'm starting to see like what the reason I think what Catherine did was so incredibly courageous. Like, I really think what she
Having
did was
Mawdsley on.
so incredibly courageous because they are pretty mainstream Catholic Unscripted.
Not anymore.
Like, I mean, you have Gavin on that
so.
show. He was a former chaplain to the Queen. You had they're writing for the Catholic Herald.
Yeah.
For her to come out and have that conversation, like, there's going to be consequences for that.
Damn right.
And she said to consequences be damned. This is a conscience issue. This is not about rousing up.
What is the conscience issue? Did the Holocaust happen or not? Because it did. All right, what else? Like, what do you even... They're fighting this battle that's just so stupid. It's like you're throwing away everything. Like, this guy could actually be pretty funny. It could be like a good, son of the church. I don't know. He might have to, like, learn a little empathy or something. He might fall down another crazy hole of conspiracy and hating on people. But, he's an entertaining guy. He seems like he's a fun guy. But he wants to fight this. It's a conscience issue. What is? Oh, maybe only 3 million died, according to this other estimate, not 6 million.
Hatred for anybody. It's a matter of theology and recognizing where we are in the story. Now, look, it does have to do with Novus Ordo versus TLM because the Novus Ordo is...
I wonder what he means by that. It's a matter of your theology and where we are in the story. Like, where we are we like... entering the Catholic Church is now, an evil shadow of itself and one of these conspiracies about the false church and all of that kind of thing? Is that what you're saying? I don't really know what he's saying. Where are we in the story? What story?
Very much influenced by this thing we're talking about.
It's the church's capitulation.
It is the church's capitulation to the older brother. Like, this is
the older brother means the Jews. So he's saying Vatican II, the new mass, that is all just the church giving in to the Jews. Okay? Don't know where you're getting that from. Okay, what have they done to us? We got some corny boomer songs at a lot of churches. We took the word perfidious out. I don't know, man. What is this giant crisis that you're
story of Cain and Abel, guys?
Cain and Abel.
The older brother offers a sacrifice. God rejects it. And it goes to, and the younger brother is praised. That is the Jews.
The Jews
old
are
covenant
about to kill us because they're the older brother.
New covenant goes to the Gentiles. The
what
older
does
brother.
the Novus Ordo do? Take an offertory prayer from that rejected sacrifice and insert it into.
But even in the bigger context of this,
what he's talking about is another cliche of the trads. This thing about like Lord God, King of the universe, who gives us bread to eat and whatever. There's a bunch of prayers just very similar to that. They're like Barakah prayers or something like that. And a lot of them will say, oh, it's from the Talmud. It's like there were Barakah prayers. And Genesis a couple places, Lord God, King of the universe, thank you for this or that. They're way before the Talmud. And even so, guess what? A lot of the Bible is also from the Jews. Jesus was a Jew. Like, taking things from the Bible is going to be also taking things from Jews. Like, they're just haters, man.
Story. What does Cain do to the younger brother when that sacrifice is accepted? Like,
kill
you have
the Jews
to
are kill
understand this enmity is biblical.
How did I know he was going there? I haven't watched this far yet, I don't think. But so basically, what I was saying he's going to say about like, therefore the Jews want to kill us because they're rejected by God, because they're like Cain, the older brother. Okay, when are they going to go ahead and do that? Are we like waiting on something? Like, do you have some information? Are the Jews pulling up any minute now on like in tanks and they're going to take over? I think Jews are not a major ethnic group in the U.S. They're like maybe 2%, if that. I had a Jewish guy in my neighborhood growing up, boy about my age. He was nice. His family was nice. They invited us into their home, me and my siblings. We could hang out. They come into ours. Nothing weird. I mean, I like them. Their family-centered focus and friendliness better than a lot of the non-practicing Christians in the neighborhood. And then as an adult, I have I have a very good friend who's Jewish. You know, I guess not trad. That's totally not a trad thing to say. But he and I, you know, we used to be kind of drinking buddies. He's just they're funny people. They're good people. They really don't care that I'm Catholic. They're not trying to like. That's one interesting thing about Jews is they don't really care. You can be their buddy, and they're not like I need you to be a Jew. It's not like a fundamentalist Baptist or something that's gonna always be upset that you're Catholic. They're cool. You know, you just be friends with them, and so I don't know what Jews. He's from New York. There might be some pretty aggressive Brooklyn, you know, Hasidic, the Haredim as they call all the ultra Orthodox. I'm sure he's seen some of that. Maybe one of them took his girlfriend or something when he was young. I don't know what's causing it, but yeah, they're usually pretty normal people, and I haven't seen them taking over the world trying to yet. As Cain, the older brother, trying to kill us. But you let me know, Anthony, when that happens.
And the thing that frustrates me is that we entered Passion Tide.
Oh.
And Catholic Answers is writing a defense of the older brother. And
oh, they defended the Jews. Oh, during the Passion of all times, when the Jews were at their Jewiest, murderous, sneakiousness, Catholic Answers defended the Jews, the older brother, you know, that is trying to murder us. Ah, oh, man, it's tough for him. Life's gotta be tough for him.
It's like I don't
Passion
know
Tide,
how to...
where we veil our statues and crucifixes in remembrance of Jesus having to hide himself from the Jews.
It's like I'm very confused about this.
The Jews stuff in the Bible is hilarious because everybody was Jewish. The context was Jewish. It'd be like me in America, like I went out and, you know, that's happening and now I got to hide from all the Americans out there. It doesn't mean like I hate Americans. It means, you know, if somebody's in charge, it's going to be the American authorities. So it was the Jewish authorities because that's Jesus' context. It's not like, I mean, the whole stuff with Paul and the book of Acts and all the letters is basically trying to figure out how do Jews and Gentiles get along. It wasn't Jews are evil. Like, it was about how, you know, with the Messiah here, all these ethnic Jews and all the Gentiles, how do they fit together? So it wasn't as blanket as all that.
Because it's a really important topic. This is not light stuff that we're talking about. It's and what I'm seeing happening with this push to go to war with Iran right now on behalf of them, it's like this is serious stuff we're talking about. We're not, you know.
Oh, okay. So you want to see some more really dumb opinions by these guys? All right. So the guy on the right who doesn't really say much, but he's tough on Twitter. He's a tough guy. So here's what he said. He's producer or whatever. Producer Rob of Avoiding Babylon. That's the show. So when the Jewish or Israel preemptively struck the Iranian nuclear facilities, he said, let's not forget, Jewish leaders attempted a preemptive strike on Christ, killing all the babies, the Jews being Jewy. So that was his take. Big, you know, that's a pretty smart, nuanced take there. Although I do, I wish I remembered. I don't believe Herod was even Jewish. I could be wrong, but I think he was like something else. So it might actually not be a good point. I'm sorry, Rob. I complimented you too fast there. So that's one thing. So they're really concerned about Iran because, you know, that's where all of our our hearts are right now. It's with Iran that keeps arming up the Houthis and the Hamas and Hezbollah to just randomly fire into civilian areas and rape women at random and behead people. That's what we're all worried about, is that they're not going to have a nuclear program. And the other one, I can't find it. I think I screenshotted that one at some point preparing for this, but I'm not going to look for it. But it's Anthony here saying that the Jews worship their father, the devil. You know, I think I mentioned that earlier, actually. But he was saying that in reference to Israel and Iran. So they're picking the side. They're almost doing, I would say, a much worse thing. Like, I think that is a little sketchy. Sometimes when the evangelicals are like, we have to support Israel no matter what because they're God's chosen people. But I think what they're doing is much worse because it's still a spiritual, you know, justification. This is not how they feel, when there's a skirmish between like South Sudan and Sudan, or between, India and Pakistan. They don't get all like, well, the Indians are naturally, sneaky, evil people that are cursed by God, and therefore we got to go with the Pakistanis. No, they kind of just let all of these other conflicts around the world, where a lot of times many more people are dying, like the people in even Nigeria. That's not of interest, I guess. Or even Russia bombing city centers in Ukraine. That one's kind of based for them. For some reason, I haven't figured that one out. But Russia invading the Ukraine and then stealing like 50,000 children from their parents and then giving to Belarus parents and Russian parents to adopt them. That's more based, and taking young women in these villages they take over and sex trafficking them into the Russian mainland, off into Russia. That's also based. Bombing, at least they don't really say much about it. They're really concerned about the Iranian nuclear program. But so what I'm saying is it's a little bit like the opposite of what the evangelicals are doing, because they are also very motivated to talk about it. Unlike many other conflicts, they're very motivated to talk about it, but it's because they put a spiritual significance on hating the Jews in a similar way to what the evangelicals do on backing the Jews. Maybe neither is necessary. I do think we have connections to the Jewish people for a number of reasons, so I feel more affinity towards them. But I don't feel like God says I can never question the modern state of Israel. Like they say stuff like that. Like, yeah, people who support Israel don't think God doesn't allow us to ever question the modern state of Israel. That's not really an opinion normal people have. Maybe that we should be more favorable to them than other countries, but if they went to war with England, like, I wouldn't be like, it really would depend what's going on. So, whatever, keep going, bro. Well, all right. I guess that's all we got from them today. But he was saying that he didn't get enough fraternal correction. He didn't get enough people reviewing his videos and being critical. So I'm sure if he ever saw this, he would not approve. And I doubt he'd spend the time. I only got like, I don't even know if I have one subscriber yet because I just started. But hypothetically, if he saw it, feel free to comment back, man, because I think what you're doing is disgusting. I think, if your bishop is out there and is aware of it, he should deny you communion until you get on your show, read Nostra Aetate, and say, I have, assent to this with my will and intellect, as you are required to as a Catholic, and apologize for everything that you've said, leading people astray, leading them to think Bishop Williamson and the SSPX is right, leading them to think that there are no good normal, Novus Ordo masses, kind of leading people to think I shouldn't check out, that's not cool and that's not legitimate. I got to find this, underground thing 3 hours away in a strip mall. Apologize for all that, for fighting against the magisterium and your local bishop. Yeah, so that's all I got. But until next time, see you later.